Hello and welcome to this week's news at GamingBolt. Today we're going to be talking about Dead Space 3, but it's not exactly what you think. Dead Space 3 was the final game of EA and Visceral's survival horror action series, but it wasn't so because of a lack of interest in Visceral's part on following up. In fact, they had some pretty cool and crazy ideas for where they wanted the game to go. Speaking to Eurogamer, Ben Wannett, who was creative director of Dead Space and now works over at Crystal Dynamics, shared some of the early ideas Visceral had for where to take the popular franchise next. It sounds like one of the ideas was to add several survival mechanics to the game, which would have made sense too, given the state of humanity at the end of Dead Space 3. The notion was you were trying to survive day to day against infested ships, searching for a glimmer of life, scavenging supplies to keep your own little ship going, trying to find survivors, Wannett explained. They also wanted some non-linear gameplay in there, something that they'd already experimented with in Dead Space 3 to an extent. We would have finessed a lot of existing mechanics, Wannett said. The flotilla section in Dead Space 3 hinted at what non-linear gameplay could be, and I would have loved to go a lot deeper into that. And what about the story? The idea was for it to be an episodic thing, divided into chapters, trying to bridge that style of storytelling with the whole non-linear gameplay style that the developers were trying to go for. I figured you'd start a section of space, maybe following a trail of ship carcasses to an orbital station you think might have the parts and fuel needed to get your ship shock capable, Wannett said. You'd start to form a picture of what happened in that region while fighting through scores of necromorphs from ship to ship, and you learn a new critical bit of plot info along with the means to shock to a couple of nearby sectors. Wannett spoke about the future of the franchise as well, noting that Visceral knew how they wanted the game to end and that there was an element of escalation involved, but also saying that he doesn't want to actually give the planned ending away just yet in case EA does plan on reviving the brand someday in the future. As much as everyone wanted to keep making Dead Space games, the cost of development was just too high compared to how much they sold. Nobody ever officially came out and said, there will be no more Dead Space, but for the first time in a while, it no longer appeared on any SKU plans. It would involve getting the development costs pushed way down, and I think you'd have to focus more on the fantastic core experience, dread, horror, and great dismemberment combat. You'd also have to forego some of the ridiculously expensive, one-off action moments. I don't want to give away the lore, but I will say that we have spent a bit of time working out the origins of the necromorphs and what purpose humans held in this dark universe. Would players find a way out of the necromorph apocalypse? I'd say yes, but they might be sorry they did. Sometimes you're better off with the devil you know. It's a shame Visceral never got to continue telling the story they had started, especially given how popular Dead Space was with the fans. Sadly, it is true that the games never quite sold proportionally to their acclaim, and on one level, it is hard to fault the publisher for a decision that made complete financial sense. That said, we can only hope that one day, maybe, Dead Space will be revived, and we'll be able to see where the story was meant to go. Rocksteady is the developer best known as the team behind the popular Batman Arkham series, and it has been a while since their last release. San Diego Comic-Con is coming up next and will take place on July 19th to July 22nd. You may be wondering whether they'll show a new game at the event. However, the company's studio director took to Twitter to confirm that that won't be the case. The studio's last major project was Batman Arkham VR for the PlayStation VR, and this was released back in 2016. However, it looks like they're not yet ready to discuss what they're currently working on. If you want to know when they'll be revealing more details, studio director Jamie Walker only stated, "You will know when it's time." They stated something along similar lines even when they hadn't shown their new project at E3 back in June. Given the high quality of the studio's past games, we're certain that many fans will be excited to see what they come up with next. Hopefully we'll get to know more very soon. Former producer of Assassin's Creed, Jade Raymond, joined EA 3 years ago to form a new studio called EA Motive, which has been working on a new IP, and while development is still in the early stages, we've been able to learn quite a few details about the game thanks to an interview that was held by Game Informer. We do know that the new IP will be an action game, but the developer wants the game's world to be dynamic and fresh. Regarding this, Raymond stated, "We're trying to reinvent action-adventure games for the future, an action-adventure game that lives on, and the world is dynamic, living, and breathing. I think that's a great problem to solve because we make these amazing worlds, and then you play through them, and they are gone. What does a dynamic one look like?" It also sounds like the game will follow the games as a service model and it will be continually updated so that it keeps changing and evolving. While it will be an action game, Raymond discussed how the team is trying to make a game that is about exploration and also beyond familiar gameplay elements like shooting and killing, which we're used to seeing in such games. I think the key innovation has to be through the other verbs, Raymond said. Explore is a big one. One of the goals for Motive and the types of games that we're making is games allow for relentless discovery. We want to build worlds without limits that allow for relentless discovery and experiences worth sharing. That is our mission. The game will also be really flexible, which means that we could be seeing it on mobile devices as well in some form or the other. Furthermore, there will also be a social element to the game, which will allow groups of friends to enjoy the game together. As for the game's setting, it seems likely that we will be seeing a science fiction world, since Raymond admits to having an affinity for the genre. As of now, the game is still in the early stages of development, so we'll have to wait and see how it evolves and changes through the development phase. Cross-platform play has been an often discussed topic in the video games industry lately. Following the recent controversy of Sony not allowing cross-platform play with Xbox One and Nintendo Switch players on Fortnite, Sony has confirmed that it's looking into a lot of possibilities for supporting it. That being said, Xbox Corporate Vice President Mike Ybarra has another request: cross-progression. Ybarra took to Twitter, stating that he wants this for all games, since there are debates within his circle about playing new titles on either Xbox One or PC. Those kinds of debates shouldn't need to be a discussion, says Ybarra. I really want cross-progression on all games. I play on PC and Xbox so much, wish all games supported this. The people I play with do the same, so we constantly debate to play new games together on PC or Xbox. Just shouldn't need to be a discussion. Let's make it happen. Cross-progression is already present for a number of titles on Xbox One and Windows 10, specifically those with Xbox Play Anywhere support. Fortnite also supports cross-progression between Xbox One, PC, and Nintendo Switch, with Sony also blocking this feature on PS4. We're at a point in time where games as a service has become a major part of our industry, so much so that most developers and publishers are looking to actively make games that fall into that category. The advantages are pretty clear to see, of course. Constant engagement by players leads to constant revenue, and so we see games as a service elements entering even most single-player games at this point. That, however, is not the approach Red Dead Redemption 2 will be taking. Recently, the Take-Two CEO talked about how single-player games are nowhere close to being dead, and some more recent comments made by him seem to be going in that same direction. In an interview with Game Daily, Strauss Zelnick said that with Red Dead Redemption 2, they haven't set out with the mentality that they want to make a games-as-a-service game, because doing that, according to him, is missing the point. According to Zelnick, if you make a great game that people like to begin with, be it single-player or multiplayer, keeping them engaged with future support is going to come naturally. Our interest is not games-as-a-service or single-player or multiplayer or episodic, Zelnick said. Our interest is in captivating and engaging consumers with the best entertainment anyone makes of any sort. And if we do that, and then we give consumers even more great stuff to engage with, it should work out well. And naturally, the revenues and the profits will follow. My concern is that looking at upside down, we want to make games as a service sort of misses the point. We're in the entertainment business, and there's no reason to believe consumers have lost interest in single player if the single player is good. There is no reason to believe you can create a service that sells if the service itself isn't great. We've said that we want to engage with consumers after the initial release. That remains our goal, but you can only do it if the initial experience is great. If it's not, then people won't want more of it. Zelnick then went on to talk a little bit about the support Red Dead Redemption 2 will be receiving post-launch, including things such as regular DLC releases, as well as Red Dead Online, which will be similar to Grand Theft Auto Online, the uber-successful online component that came with Grand Theft Auto 5. We have Red Dead Online coming, and Rockstar's announced that so clearly that's intended to be an expression of ongoing engagement after the initial sale, he said. What we haven't talked about is any path to monetization, because it's just not our primary concern. Our primary concern is keeping consumers engaged. To be fair, what he's saying makes complete sense. Sure, ultimately when you think about it, the end result ends up being the same, but the approach Rockstar and Take-Two are taking with constant support for their game means that hopefully all the content we're going to receive is going to be top-notch. And really, there's no reason to doubt the developers either. Their post-launch support for GTA Online speaks for itself, given how successful and popular it's been ever since it launched. Red Dead Redemption 2 launches on October 26th for the PS4 and Xbox One. You're tired of hearing it, we're tired of saying it, but after all this time, we haven't the slightest clue just what the heck Death Stranding is about. We recently saw plenty of gameplay footage at E3 2018, and we did manage to pick up a few things. One of the things that fans noticed in the trailer was the bodies Sam, Norman Reedus' character, was carrying on his back, and what was interesting about it, other than carrying bodies on his back we mean, was that they seemed to be wrapped in yellow tape that reads, "Void if tampered." Apparently that tape is not just there for visual purposes, it's actually going to be a gameplay mechanic. Hideo Kojima recently took to Twitter and explained that the tape will act as a sort of damage indicator in the game, and will signify through visual cues if the packages Sam is carrying on his back are taking any damage. The tape will have a sensor inside of it, which will change colors if the package takes any damage. So Sam is going to be a FedEx guy who delivers dead bodies confirmed? It sounds intriguing, but honestly, we're just waiting for the day when all these tidbits finally come together and Kojima decides it's finally time to let us know just what the heck is going on. That'll be it for this video. If you like what we're doing, please go ahead and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.